So you worked as a fetish model off and on since 2012 and trained with my friend Isabella Sinclair in 2013, started doing sessions with her in her dungeon. Are you naturally dominant? What led you to becoming a dom?
I would say naturally I was dominant in my 20s. It was something that I loved exploring, and funny enough, I was actually brought to Isabella in the old guard sense, which means that I was a submissive at the time, serving a male dom who was old friends with Isabella and brought me to her studio. And that was kind of the traditional way that in order to become a dom, you had to be a submissive first. Nowadays, anybody can just kind of pick up a whip or call themselves a dom, but it was a little bit different, at least in that era. And so I was dominant but shy because I wasn't fully experienced. So the more I, worked with Isabella, the more I really grew into my dominance. But funny enough, as time has gone on, I actually really still identify as a submissive in my personal life.
When you started doing sessions, did you just put up an ad or something, or did you just start working with her?
It was a long process of us setting everything up, from coming up with my stage name to, developing a persona for who I was going to be as a dominant. And that included, what I was going to wear, what type of scenes I was going to do. So it wasn't just overnight. We probably worked together for about a month, and I trained with her, did sessions with her and some of her own slaves before I started taking my own.
What do you like about being a dom?
What I loved about being a dom was giving people the satisfaction of being able to experience and grow within their own desires, and kind of just seeing the people kind of take on this expression that otherwise they'd probably never be able to experience in either their personal life or in dating. There's kind of like this loss of identity and transcendence in the dungeon, and it's very ornate and it's very fantasy driven, and I loved kind of being like a proctor of that for those clients.
Did you ever do one of those, I remember they used to have these like fetish dinners?
I did several dinners, but they weren't, I don't think what you're talking about. They were more of like, as a slave in my personal life, you were instructed to create dinner parties and to kind of put on a show for the dom and his friends. But as a dominatrix, I was more private. It was more of like a service top position. So because, a lot of the girls are in competition in the industry, people kind of tend to keep to themselves besides the house that you're at. But we had some fun parties at the dungeon, that's for sure.
Yeah. What do you dislike about it?
What I dislike about it was just some of the people are rude or have unrealistic expectations. People can be dirty, and so that was always uncomfortable. But you kind of learn to find your niche and find the people that you like to grow with, and you also learn to like kind of set up new boundaries for yourself to keep kind of those negative experiences at bay.
What was the first fetish imagery you saw that intrigued you?
It's so funny, I can still remember it. It was a picture of Mosh. I don't remember, I believe it was Tumblr. It was definitely online. I definitely just came across it by accident. I believe she was wearing latex stockings with lingerie, and as a person that was really into fashion, I was just like, what is this fabric? What is going on here? I was completely just over the top intrigued, and it really kind of just became a snowballing effect that led me into wanting to try fetish modeling myself.
You were known for your feet. How did you find out you had the kind of feet that foot fetishists go crazy over?
In the dungeon, having a slave want to worship or massage your feet is very normal. So it did take me a couple years to really like catch on to that. Oh no, these people are coming to me specifically for this. People will fill out applications or talk about their interest, and feet just kind of kept coming up, and people were kind of just over the top, like fixated on it. And it became something I was known for over time, especially after attending like foot night events. And that really kind of gave me like a worldwide viewership. And people to this day still bring up, seeing me on CaliforniaBeachFeet.com, almost a decade ago. And they've just followed me ever since. They're really fanatical about my feet. It's kind of crazy to be objectified so much for a part of your body that, growing up I was kind of insecure about, having bigger feet. Now people, are just ecstatic that I have them.
It's always those insecurities as a child that become your strength as an adult, right?
Sure, and it was totally just hilarious to me. I remember boys teasing me in high school, calling me finger toes, and now I get tons of marriage requests. I think mostly just because they want me for my feet, not me.
Do you have a regimen to care for your feet?
Oh my gosh, like every 10 days I'm at the nail salon. I spend more money on pedicures in a month than a car payment. And I'll do things like avoid walking if I know I'm going to do photos and stuff like that, just to like kind of keep them as soft and like non-callousy as possible. So it's definitely something I've perfected the art of over the years, but I'll also love just kind of at the end of a pedicure, or sometimes just not caring and walking down the street and getting them dirty and just kind of letting the nail polish chip, because there's this sense of perfection that people expect, but you also just kind of want to be yourself and be comfortable in your body.
And if I was going to go RuPaul for a second, say, name a foot product that you're not being sponsored, but you just want to throw it out there to help the people.
Havanas are just these flip-flops that I could just have a million of. I love flip-flops, and living in SoCal my whole life, it's just kind of a staple of my fashion.
Do people treat you differently because you do sex work?
Absolutely. Every single person. I'll try when I meet people to not really discuss it, because I want to be judged based on who I really am and not for my job. But even in relationships, people will tend to act at the beginning like they're totally cool with it, or that's awesome, or they're attracted to you because of that. But then later it will kind of show that there are some things they're not too happy with, or they don't like exactly what it turned out to look like. It's always like the fantasy. Everyone has like their judgments and preconceived notions of what it is, and the reality is rarely that.
How's your relationship with social media?
I love social media. I think it's really an important tool for sex workers. And back when I first started, none of us were posting pictures on Instagram. So where we are now with social media compared to when I started, I really wish we had kind of the social media platform now back then, especially with, sites like OnlyFans and stuff like that, where now so much of my work is, digital. I think that would have been an incredible thing to have since the beginning of my career.
How do you deal with the negativity?
You just get used to it. Things used to affect me a lot when I was younger, but as you get experience in the trade, you just kind of let things roll off your shoulder and understand everybody out there. People have bad days, or they want to project their own ideas of what's right or wrong, morally or otherwise, on you, and you just have to live your own life for yourself.
Do you like music and the arts? Who are your favorites?
Art is such a broad thing. I love all kinds of art. To pick an artist, wow. I think Van Gogh was super inspiring for me. I traveled to Amsterdam by myself in 2017 and went to the Van Gogh Museum, and just kind of seeing that he started painting and made his career for himself starting in his 30s was really important for me, to kind of see that at any stage in your life you can take on a new art and become, very proficient, if not an expert at it.
And last question, if you had one piece of advice for someone who wants to succeed in your field, what would that be?
Trust your instincts. Don't look to other people to tell you what's right or wrong. Kind of make your own path and try to do something that's just unique to yourself, because there's a lot of people copycatting out there. But I think when people really are just expressing their own true nature, their own sexuality, that's what draws people into you.